Oded Yanon. Oded Yanon is the Israeli scholar who put forth the paper, A Strategy for Israel in the 1980s. And in that paper, it's a plan that's outlined to basically divide up the Arab world, and Iran too, I believe, into smaller states with the idea that smaller states are weaker states and therefore easier to dominate and control. The goal is divide and conquer. If people are pitted against each other and fighting each other, then they are basically, their attention is diverted, and it's easier for the empire power to take the resources and subjugate the people, and then you have colonialism.
Oded Yanon put forth such ideas that Israel should use its military power to destabilize and fragment Israel's enemies. This was put forth, as I said, in 1982 during the Begin administration, when, of course, Begin did invade Lebanon, and perhaps that was, though it failed, some historians have contended there was a broader plan intended there to affect more of the Middle East to advance Israeli security. I might say that the late Israel Shahak translated Yanon's study and into English, and the name of the translation was The Zionist Plan for the Middle East. Now, after 1996, the neoconservatives started to emphasize that the threat wasn't simply to Israel, but it was a threat to the United States, that there was a terrorist threat from the Islamic and Arab countries and groups in the Middle East, that the United States had to do something about it. The fundamental threat, they emphasized, came from Saddam Hussein in Iraq. Just wanted to point out that in both Yanon and Study and A Clean Break, there was an emphasis on attacking Iraq first, that Iraq was a key, let's say, a geostrategic location for Israel to destabilize all of its enemies in the Middle East.
So in this paper, there's basically, it was a right-wing proposal, but nevertheless, you see it coming to pass today with the proposal to divide Iraq into three parts, which is not what Iraqis want. The majority of Iraqis want the occupation to end. They want the restoration of Iraq.
Eastern Libya was where the Libyan Revolution began. The first protests on February 17th occurred here. The NTC was formed here, and it was the mission to protect Eastern Libyan civilians from Gaddafi's forces that gave the UN and NATO their justification for military intervention. This also happens to be where the majority of Libya's oil production takes place. Libya was divided into 3 provinces in the post-independence era, with the eastern province, known as Cyrenaica, hosting the country's economic capital in Benghazi. There remains a lot of nostalgia in the east that makes a return to that early system seem appealing. Certainly there are enough resources in eastern Libya for it to exist as a viable autonomous province.
تعودنا أن نقول فقط في سوريا، هذه المرة نقول فقط في دير الزور. عجز العالم، عجزت تركيا، عجز المسلمون، عجز العرب عن تحقيق منطقة عازلة لإيواء السوريين، فتم بحمد الله على يد المجاهدين من أبناء المنطقة كتائب لواء جعفر الطيار بتشكيل منطقة عازلة خاصة بهم.